Thank you, President. And before I start, I also want to give my thanks to the Minister for the Environment, who spoke very movingly. And this would reflect, I think, well on all members of all governments who see the tragedies occurring in front of us and do their utmost, of whatever political persuasion, to serve the people of this state. Now, we've got two very similar motions before us today, and while I'll speak more at length to the second motion, regarding this one here, points A and B, I think everyone will recognise the significance of the impact of recent natural disasters. There's not a single person with a functioning brain and a compassionate heart who would not agree with that. Secondly, to commend the Western Australia's fire and emergency service workers and volunteers for their dedication and commitment. As several speakers have mentioned, I too have personally witnessed what goes on, the amount of effort, the amount of dedication that occurs. It needs not a further explanation. Members across the chamber will share that point of view. I really wanted to speak more at length about point C. So while I thank the Honourable Martin Aldridge for bringing this entire motion before us, so this is where my focus is going to be for this very short contribution, bearing in mind there are plenty of other speakers who wish to comment. So first of all, the praise for all. We depend upon volunteers, and the volunteers just now are also suffering greatly because they're extended, they're being stretched beyond the limit of human ability, and they are still managing that. This calls to mind the stories my parents told of the efforts they made in the Second World War. And then all such crises and catastrophes where the people in times of crisis stand together and support each other and help each other and show those elements which are so powerful, which are so reinforcing of the human nature that is to be good to our fellow man and woman. But what I would like to do just now is begin in a short message to suggest that we might also want to look at solutions. Now, there are plenty of solutions which we could look at, and in particular, I was thinking here about the communications, which are so important. I vividly recall in Carnarvon having to choose my particular tree under which I stood to get a mobile signal when dealing with emergencies, patients to be emergency transported, and finding it very difficult to get communication. That has since been fixed with a tower which at times runs out of diesel, and leaves us again bereft of communication in certain areas. But in particular, and knowing where I come from in the cannabis community, it's not just something which is used to entertain people or to heal people, but also the hemp itself can be made, as the ministers here very well know, into a number of extensively tested and very useful preparations. In particular, this one here, Hemp Crete, which is a mixture of hemp herds and lime, sand, used as a material for construction and also insulation. Now, if anyone has been in such a house, and I'm sure several members have, in the winter in southwest, where it's not the warmest place in the world, and find that no central heating has been required, and to know that in those same houses, in the middle of summer with 40 degrees temperatures, there is no need for air conditioning because the house itself is automatically insulated by the very nature of this substance. But it's also fireproof. And we have plenty of examples, we can show plenty of examples where intense heat has been applied to this and we're finding no deterioration of the material. And so I have spoken before in this chamber about the possibility of examining this further. I have got no evidence as yet because it has not yet been tested, but it would make sense to me, as someone who has lived in the wheat belt and seen the salmon gum trees surrounding the town in which I was living, and being aware that should a spark hit that place, dry summer with lightning strike, then the whole town would have been lost, including the hospital where I was working. And we would have stayed behind to evacuate the patients, we would have stayed behind to fight the fire as best as possible. But at what time do you say we've got to run away before it becomes too dangerous to leave your home? And when it is too dangerous to leave your home, and you have been doing your best to save your property or the lives of animals and humans, how do you find shelter? And we're told, yes, find a suitable room far away from the fire, plenty of blankets, water to dampen the area. I think lack of oxygen and heat, radiant heat, would be the main problems we're facing. We could research, and I would put it to your research, the possibility of using Hempcrete to build fire-proof shelters where people who are seeking shelter from the fire at a point when they can no longer escape can find secure shelter. This needs to be researched, and it's a solution I would put out that might allow a little more time to allow people to A, defend their properties and livestock, and B, to find secure safety in the face of the conflagration. So I've urged the government in the past to look at this, and I would heartily recommend this yet again. It's a matter also for industry. It gives jobs. It gives places for people to actually find a sensible solution to one of the problems which every year confronts us. Now, there are other solutions which could be found, I'm sure, and I do applaud the government approach, which is get out of the way of business and let it happen, let it work. But fire safety is clearly an issue for the whole of state and for the whole of government, indeed for all sides of government as a result. And so once again, I take the opportunity to encourage the government to do everything it can to increase hempcrete availability, research, and also building houses for normal people.